All right, everybody, welcome in. This is episode 7 of From Baltimore to Orono. On today's episode, I'll be reacting to the games from earlier this week. Some of the games are UMass Lowell versus UConn. So if you're a UMass Lowell fan, you probably want to skip the first, let's say, 5 to 10 minutes of this podcast. Pretty rough game to watch. Then I'll be breaking down Bryant versus Georgia Tech, UMBC versus Dayton, Albany versus UMass, New Hampshire versus Harvard, and then the game of the year so far, I would say in all of college basketball so far this season, the Vermont versus Brown game from yesterday. What a game that was. Double overtime victory for Vermont. If you haven't seen the game and you have ESPN Plus, you can watch the full game and replay. So if you haven't done that yet, make sure to do that if you love this conference. But I wouldn't watch the game if you hate Vermont. But anyway, let's get into today's episode. All right, first game up on the list, we got UMass Lowell versus UConn. Like I just said, if you're a UMass Lowell fan, you want to skip this part right here. But also, what a long season this is going to be. Sorry to UMass Lowell fans. But so before I break it down, just wanted to say probably the easiest bet I've ever won in my life. I took UConn minus 33.5. One of those bets where I wish I could go back and bet, like $1,000 on it. I didn't watch the game. I don't have Peacock. I was watching Bryant versus Georgia Tech, and I was shocked. I opened up CBS Sports. I want to say CBS Sports, best sports app that you can get. ESPN, I don't know about you guys. Could be because I have old iPhone, but holy, the ESPN app just freezes all the time. It lags. It's super slow. CBS Sports, super fast. But anyway, when I opened the app, saw UConn up 37-2 at one point. I was like, holy shit. Then it was 44-3. At halftime, it was 64-17. I mean, those are scores you see in, high school when you play a really bad team. Like, I know there was one year where I guess this wasn't high school, but one time in middle school, we were up, going into the fourth quarter, we were up 43-0 to the point where our coach, he was like, in the fourth quarter, he's like, just let them score. He's like, this is pretty bad. We feel bad. Just let them score. So I think we ended up winning that game 52-6. So 9-6 in the fourth quarter. Not bad for that team, but just those type of games where it might be tough to coach. But someone like Coach Hurley, he was coaching for the full 40. So I respect that. My dad, who used to be a coach, always said, you always got to keep the same mentality coaching, whether it's a 1-point game where you're up by 50, because the mistakes you make when you're up by 50 are the mistakes you're going to make when you're only up by 1. But UMass Lowell shot 10 for 47 from the field goals. That's 21.3%. That's just, only making 10 field goals on the night is a rough night. They got crushed on the boards. UConn had 46 rebounds. UMass Lowell only had 22. And UMass Lowell had 20 turnovers on the night. The only positive I can take away from this game for UMass Lowell is that it can't get any worse. It literally cannot get any worse from here. 110-47 loss. You cannot get any worse than that. And if you do, you might as well just punt on the year and maybe just shut down the program for the year and try to rebuild for next year, because it shouldn't get any worse from that. That was UMass Lowell versus UConn on Friday night, and it's going to be a long season for UMass Lowell. Sorry to UMass Lowell fans, but all right, on to the next game. All right, next game up on the list, it was Bryant versus Georgia Tech. This game was also on Friday night. I watched the game. And the score kind of doesn't tell the whole story. So Georgia Tech won 74-45, but it was just a poor shooting night for Bryant. They got a lot of good looks. They just weren't making shots. They were 0 for 16. 0 for 16 from the 3-point line. before they made their first one. So, and I'm pretty sure if I can remember, they were 0 for 16 just in the first half from three. So that's how you're gonna go down pretty early if you're not making any of your threes. Georgia Tech had 13 steals on the night. They were picking up full court most of the game. And if you didn't watch this game, you missed probably one of the craziest timeouts I've ever seen a coach take. I couldn't believe it. So Bryant had the ball, and a Bryant player went up for a dunk, and he missed it, and he fell to the floor. So Georgia Tech got the rebound. They're already running up the court. 5-on-4 fast break. The Bryant player's still on the floor. He got hurt a little bit. He was fine, but he was hurt. 5-on-4. The ball crosses half court, and Coach Stoudemire for Georgia Tech called a timeout. I couldn't believe it. I've never seen that before. Usually, what happens, 5-on-4 fast break, you score, or if you don't, then Bryant gets the ball, then the ref calls a timeout for an injury timeout. But I don't know if Stoudemire just felt bad for Bryant, and he's just like, all right, let's keep good sportsmanship and not score when they have an injured player. But I think that's the first time I've ever seen that in basketball history, where a coach you have the numbers on a fast break and you take a timeout and you don't capitalize on that fast break. So I was pretty shocked about that. Georgia Tech came out on fire in the second half too, put the game away. They shot 7 for 9 in the first 6 minutes, and that really just ended the game for Bryant right there. So tough loss for Bryant, 0-2 on the year to start the year. Tough start for Coach Christian, but that's how I kind of predicted how they would start. Because, brand new team this year compared to last year's championship team. So they're just getting through the funk right now. And this should be a team that once conference play starts, they should start turning it around. But Bryant losing by 29 to Georgia Tech. Tough game for them, but on to the next one. All right, this game coming up was on Saturday. I watched this game also. I caught the ending of it. So it's still college football season, and I'm a huge Penn State football fan. Rough year for us, but I had to watch the game against Indiana. Just wanted to see if we could upset them. And then a heartbreaking loss. Probably everybody's seen the catch by now, but one of the craziest catches you'll ever see in football. But UMBC versus Dayton. This was a shocking score. UMBC was plus 23.5 going into the game and missing their best player, Josh Ununwo. So I didn't think this game was going to be close at all. Dayton, tough place to play at, and then not having your best player. So I just didn't even think UMBC was going to cover that line. But Jose Roberto Tanchin. I got to get better at learning these names. That's on me, so I'm sorry about that. He had a great game off the bench, 16 points and 6 rebounds, and he shot 6 for 7 from the field. So shout out to Jose. DJ Armstrong had 15, and then Jalike King added 12 points. They were down by 4 at halftime, and then they opened the second half on a 12-3 run. And then Dayton came back, and they took the lead. UMBC just, wouldn't go away. At one point, Dayton went back up 69-62, but then UMBC cut it back down 73-71 with under a minute to go. And then this was just tough for UMBC. Dayton had the ball up by 2. UMBC stopped them, but then let up a crucial offensive rebound. Dayton could take more time off the clock. UMBC stops them again, but then let up another offensive rebound. So at this point, they had to foul. So that was what lost them the game, sadly. But great effort by UMBC. They only lost by 6 at Dayton. Tough place to play. So doing that without your best player, that's definitely a positive note. You can build off this for the season. Once you get Josh Ununwo back, it looks like UMBC is going to be a pretty solid squad this year. So keep hope for UMBC, 1-1 on the year. And on to the next game. All right, next game. This game was also on Saturday. not really much to break down here. It was Albany versus UMass. Albany had a solid first half. They were down 6. They kept it close. They played close. But then in the second half, just totally different story. They got outscored 45-30 in the second half. For the game, they got out-rebounded 42-27. That's just not going to win you ball games. So 42-27 on the boards, which that led to 25 second-chance points for UMass. And then UMass's defensive intensity just way too much for Albany. Albany just couldn't get into any rhythm on offense. They were out of sorts. In the final 9 minutes of the game, they only had 2 field goals, so they went very cold. And then three-point line, they struggled big time. They shot 23.1% on the day. So tough game for Albany. 0-2 on the year. So looking to turn it around for these next games coming up. All right, next game up on the list. This game was yesterday. Started at noontime Sunday. So I watched this game. It was New Hampshire versus Harvard. Just totally different halves for both teams. First half, New Hampshire controlled it. They dominated. They were up 48-32 over Harvard. Can't remember what the spread was for this game. I think Harvard was favored by like 15.5, somewhere around that number. And then just New Hampshire came out firing. Harvard was kind of shell-shocked. And then to start the second half, New Hampshire went up by 20. Game just kind of looked like it was over. And then Harvard just took over. They dominated the second half. What crushed New Hampshire big time is that they went 5 minutes and 33 seconds without scoring in the beginning of the second half. So after going up by 20, Harvard cut down the lead. And then UNH was up by 8 with 8.5 minutes to go. And then they didn't score again until 4 minutes and 4 seconds to go. So these scoring droughts really, really hurt them, and that's what really lost them the game. Harvard just dominated in the second half. They outscored them 54-27 in the second half. UNH was up 66-58 with 8 minutes to go and ended up losing the game 86-75. So they got outscored. Let me do math really quick. 58-86. So 28-11 in the final 8 minutes. So that's pretty rough. Bilal El-Shakiri, he led the team with 19 points and 8 rebounds. And I was really impressed how Jack Graham played. Really good shooter, and he was all over the floor on the defensive end. I have written down that he's involved in a lot of plays on both ends. He had 17 points on 6 for 10 shooting. And then R.J. Kennedy had a pretty good game off the bench. He had 15 points, 5 for 7 from the field, and he shot 4 from 5 from the three-point line. So tough break for New Hampshire. A lot of people are not high on them for this season. It looked like they were proving the doubters wrong in that first half, but then they just collapsed in the second half. So tough game for New Hampshire fans, but they're not looking as bad as everyone thinks they're going to be. If I could redo my rankings right now to rank a team last, it would for sure be UMass Lowell and definitely not New Hampshire. But tough loss for New Hampshire. Hopefully they can bounce back for next game. All right, this game right here, I'm going to say it best game of the year so far. I would say it's between Vermont versus Brown, and then I'd say Alabama versus St. John's on Saturday for best game of the year so far. I mean, we're only one weekend, so there's going to be a lot of crazy games for the rest of the year. But Vermont, what a win for them. Pretty upset there's no highlights for this game yet. That's, some page has got to start posting these, mid-major games, especially the ones that are super crazy. I wish that I knew how to screen record like my TV from ESPN Plus so I could upload some highlights. But if anyone knows how to do that, please let me know because I would definitely start doing that. But yeah, Vermont ended up winning the game 89-84 in double overtime. Brown was up 15 at one point, and then Vermont, with 5:32 to go in the game, they were up by 10, and then they just went super cold. They only scored 4 points in the final 5 minutes and 30 seconds, and then Brown came back, took the lead, or not, didn't take the lead. They tied up the game and sent the game into overtime. And then in the final seconds of overtime, it looked like Vermont was going to lose the game. TJ Long, they were down by 2. TJ Long shot a 3 with about 5 seconds to go, and he missed it. Noah Barnett got a huge offensive rebound, and he went back up with it, and his shot got blocked, and it went out of bounds, but the buzzer went off, so Brown started celebrating like they won. The refs went to review. They put 0.6 seconds left on the clock, and that was just enough time for Coach Becker. He drew up a beautiful play, a beautiful inbound play. TJ Hurley looped around the screen and hit a tough layup at the buzzer. It honestly looked like he got fouled. They easily could have called an and one on the play, but hit a really tough layup, sent the game into double OT. And then after that double OT, the TJs just took over. TJ Long had 5 points in double overtime, and then TJ Hurley had 4. They ended up winning in the double overtime. They outscored them 9-4. Brown went super cold in double OT. Fatigue caught up to them. They had one possession where they just missed so many easy bunnies. They missed 2 layups on the same possession. They got like 4 or 5 chances on that same possession, and they did not score. So that really crushed Brown, and the momentum switched to Vermont, and Vermont pulled away. Huge win for Vermont to start the year. Tough day for Vermont, minus 5.5 bettors, especially when they're up by 10 with 5.5 to go, and then they ended up winning by 5 in double OT. So heartbreaking loss for people that took minus 5.5, and then crazy sweat for Brown plus 5.5 bettors. But what a game this was. Great game for TJ Long. He had 40 points and 13 rebounds, his career high. I would say probably his best game he's ever had in his life. Not sure how his high school games went, but I imagine this one definitely meant more. And he shot 50% from the field. And then TJ Hurley, he had 18 points on the night. And he only shot 3 3-pointers, which is not a lot for TJ. He went 2 for 3 from the 3-point line. So huge win for Vermont. Went down at 15 at one point and came back. So huge win for this Vermont squad, and huge win for Coach Becker. So after week 1, kind of flew by. The standings are right now, UMaine, Bryant, and Albany are all 0-2. Binghamton is 1-2. New Hampshire's also 1-2. NJIT 1-1. Huge win over Fordham earlier this week. And then UMBC is 1-1. UMass Lowell is 1-1. And Vermont is currently 3-0 on the year. So that's where the standings currently sit, 0-0, and obviously in the actual conference standings. But Vermont currently in first place. UMass Lowell, might as well, if you're a UMass Lowell fan, take a screenshot of the standings right now, because you guys are currently in second place. And I imagine by this time in March, we will probably be screenshotting the standings and seeing that you guys are in last place. So, but upcoming games for this week on the schedule for each team. So UMass Lowell, they got 2 games before the next episode I record. They play New Haven tonight. They're favored by minus 11.5. So I just placed a bet before I started recording. I took New Haven plus 11.5. I'm just super low on this Lowell team. New Haven played UConn, only lost by 24. So Lowell, they lost by 63. So I think New Haven can cover this spread. I think UMass Lowell will win the game. New Haven's first year in D1. So they're not really a good ball club. They're still getting used to D1 play. So I do think Lowell will win this game, but I think it will be closer than 11.5. And then the second game later this week, they play Columbia, who also played UConn. Sorry, I got that wrong. Columbia plays UConn tonight, so we'll see how they do against UConn, see how the score is, and then compare it to the UMass Lowell game. Columbia did play New Haven, and they beat New Haven by 18 in New Haven's first ever D1 game. Their second game. Messing up the stats right now. But so UMass Lowell, it's kind of crazy how they're pretty much have a similarity in scheduling. And then also tonight's game on the Big Ten Network, UMaine is playing Rutgers. UMaine is the underdog by 18.5 points. Rutgers, totally different team from last year. Last year they had Ace Bailey and Dylan Harper. This year, I don't think they have any freshmen that are standing out. Not really sure who's going to cover this spread. I'm not going to bet the game. I can't bet the game. So I'm definitely not going to put out a pick for this game. But Ace Flags, he's been looking pretty good to start out the year. Definitely playing a lot more than I thought he was going to start the year. So shout out to Ace. UMBC this week, they play Morgan State. Don't know much about Morgan State, but I think UMBC, coming off a close loss to Dayton, they should be able to beat Morgan State. I'm not sure if Josh Nunwell will be back or not. Haven't seen the injury report. Haven't really seen why he's been out. Obviously, it's probably some type of injury. Not sure how serious it is. And then Albany, they're definitely going to pick up their first win of the season. They play Sunny Delhi, I think is how you say it. Pretty much, if there's a college that I don't even know how to say, that's they're definitely not a good team. I think they're a Division II school, so Albany will handle them very easily, and they'll pick up their first win of the year. NJIT, they play Loyola, Maryland. They had a tough game on Saturday against Fairfield. They lost that game by 17 points. They were favored. They weren't favored. They were plus 5.5 underdogs and did not cover the line. I don't think they'll win the game against Loyola, Maryland. Binghamton, they have a tough game coming up. They're playing Georgetown. Georgetown got a huge victory over Maryland last weekend. So Binghamton, they've looked pretty rough to open the year. They lost to Niagara on Saturday. Demetrius Lilly did play in that game, so he's back from injury. And New Hampshire, they'll end up winning their next game. They'll be 2-2 on the year. They play Emmanuel College, which is a D2 school. And then Bryant, I think they will be able to pick up their first win of the season. They play Dartmouth. And it's a home game for Bryant. Very tough place to play at. So I think Bryant will be able to pick up their first win of the year against Dartmouth. So that was today's episode. It's been a fun week of watching college hoops. Week 1 is already over. Really hope this season doesn't fly by. I don't know about you guys, but football season, NFL already being in week 10, college football, or technically college football is in week 12 now. So it's flying by. I hate it. So I really hope basketball season doesn't fly by either. But next episode will be on Friday. Definitely got to get better at uploading the podcast earlier. I've been shooting for noontime, and this one's going to be up later. I had a busy day yesterday, so I had to record in the morning on Monday. But next episode we'll be breaking down some of the games from the ones I just listed, and then we'll be previewing the weekend games. So make sure to tune in to that episode on Friday. Thank you guys for watching this episode or listening. If you've been listening on Spotify, YouTube isn't too bad to listen to on either, because I include some highlights from the games, and you can actually look at something like a picture instead of just like a blank screen on Spotify. So maybe consider that if you're listening on Spotify. But shout out to those 3 to 4 loyal listeners on Spotify. It means a lot. And I'll be back on Friday for another episode of From Baltimore to Orono. Thank you guys for watching. Thank you guys for listening. Make sure to like the video, subscribe, and share the podcast with your friends and family. So everybody have a good week, and I'll be back on Friday.